Hey there, in today's video I'm going to talk about hydration, overhydration, underhydration, and trying to get the balance right as a runner. It's summertime here in the Northern Hemisphere. Temperatures are rising and it becomes even more critical to get your hydration strategy right. In this video I'm going to go through some of the things that I try and do to get my hydration strategy right. As always, I'm not a medical doctor. This is not medical advice. It's based on my own experience and what I can find on the internet. And so we're all different. What works for me may not work for you. And as always, seek your doctor's advice. It's the best medicine if you have anything that you're concerned about in relation to hydration. This video might be long, so there are chapter markers down below, so you can skip on through to the bits you might be interested in. Let's get going. Let's delve into the science and look at another academic paper. So this is Rehydration During Endurance Exercise, Challenges, Research, Options and Methods by Lawrence E. Armstrong from the Human Performance Laboratory and Curry String Institute, University of Connecticut. And in the abstract it says, during endurance exercise, two problems arise from disturbed fluid electrolyte balance, dehydration and overhydration. The former involves water and sodium losses in sweat and urine that are incompletely replaced, whereas the latter involves excessive consumption and retention of dilute fluids. When experienced at low levels, both dehydration and overhydration have minor or no performance effects and symptoms of illness. But when experienced at moderate to severe levels, they degrade exercise performance and or may lead to hydration-related illnesses, including hyponatremia, low serum sodium concentration. So there's two things going on, underhydration, overhydration, and some have low levels and some have severe impacts on the body. And we're going to look at each. We're probably all a little bit familiar with the effects of dehydration, thirst, tiredness. You've seen lots of movies of people running out of water in the middle of Sahara or the outback in Australia. We've seen all those movies. We've all been dehydrated from time to time. Sun, excessive heat, sometimes excessive alcohol, maybe too much caffeine. All sorts of things can lead to dehydration. And we're accustomed to seeing them. And I think people are very afraid of dehydration. We look at an article from the British Journal of General Practice, July 2006, called Too Much of a Good Thing, The Danger of Water Intoxication in Endurance Sports. And the introduction begins with, the deaths of 4 runners in the 2005 Great North Run alerted the public to the potential dangers of distance running. In the immediate aftermath, the sports minister recommended that runners be advised to drink more water. I'm always nervous of things that say drink more water or drink less water or slow down or speed up or whatever without a base metric, like drink more water than what? So anyway, we'll park that bit and we go on. It is therefore a paradox that the medical director for the 2005 New York City Marathon went to extraordinary lengths to advise participants to limit their fluid intake to no more than 750 milliliters per hour. And this is because people are taking on a lot more water than they perhaps need. Now, I'm not trying to say do not be hydrated. You want to be correctly hydrated, but there are dangers in overhydration. And certainly before the Chicago Marathon, which I ran in 2021, we got lots of warnings about the dangers of over consumption of fluids, and we got those from the medical director certainly in the week in the leading up to it and certainly before the race. So they're clearly very worried, and we'll have a quick look at why. Hyponatremia or overhydration is extremely critical, and looking at an article here, Hyponatremia in Athletes by Bob Murray, PhD, director at the Gatorade Sports Science Institute. And what I found interesting when I found this article is a lot of people take a lot of Gatorade. It's I really like Gatorade when I can get it. It's really good for hydrating, but this is warning of overhydrating from the Gatorade Sports Institute, which, you know, has a certain ring of plausibility when someone who's trying to sell you a lot of stuff is telling you don't take too much. So some of the points they make are, fatal hyponatremia in athletes is rare, but has claimed the lives of marathon runners and military recruits. For that reason, sports health professionals should understand the causes of hyponatremia and the practical steps that can be taken to reduce the risk. Hyponatremia occurs when the blood sodium concentration falls to an abnormally low level, prompting a rapid and dangerous swelling of the brain that can result in seizures, coma, and death. Although hyponatremia is often associated with prolonged exercise, it can also occur at rest when too much fluid is ingested too quickly. Excessive drinking is a key risk factor for hyponatremia, but it is possible for hyponatremia to occur without excessive drinking in dehydrated athletes during very prolonged exercise as a result of large sodium losses in sweat. The risk of hyponatremia can be reduced by making certain that fluid intake does not exceed sweat loss and by ingesting sodium-containing beverages or foods to help replace the sodium lost in sweat. For most athletes, dehydration remains the primary challenge to physiological homeostasis and performance, but hyponatremia should be recognized as a possible threat to those athletes who drink more fluid than they lose in sweat. So, what is the right amount of fluid to drink? To answer the question of how much fluid I would lose during a long run, I went out during the summer, a couple of summers ago, and I did some calculations. I weighed myself naked, put on all my kit, weighed myself, went out, ran for 3 hours, came back, weighed all the kit individually, weighed myself to try and estimate how much fluid I'd lost. I also was trying to estimate how much was absorbed by my shoes, my socks. Overdoing it as per usual. But I was able to figure out, and I accounted for anything that I'd ingested along the way, but I could figure out that in 17 degrees, which is pretty average summer temperature here, not all that hot, 62 Fahrenheit thereabouts, I burned through about a litre an hour of water, about a kilogram or a litre per hour. And I also looked at when I did the Berlin Marathon, I could see on my Garmin afterwards how much it said I lost, but it's the same thing, about a litre per hour. Now, when I did a 5-hour marathon last year, just for fun to try and enter into the New York Marathon as a virtual marathon, I did a 5-hour marathon. I wasn't in any particular hurry. I was stopping to do all sorts of things. I burnt off. I lost less weight according to the Garmin because I'm going slower. So the hotter the temperature, the more you're going to burn off and the faster you're going. And I suppose that's one of the reasons why certain marathons are deemed as an ideal temperature for marathons, which is probably in around 12 degrees centigrade. When I run a marathon, I can't put in 4 litres of fluid into myself. So I just can't do it over that time, and it wouldn't be a good idea. So what I want to do is make sure that I go to the line hydrated. To do that, I start with my hydration strategy at least 1 week out from the race. At least 1 week out, I'm trying to make sure I'm correctly hydrated every evening and every morning and throughout the day, all the way up. What I don't want to do is get to the day before the marathon, realize, oh, I'm dehydrated, I need to take on a lot of fluid, and bloat myself up and go to the line feeling that I need to go to the toilet the second I start. And I've seen this in many marathons. Chicago, certainly saw it in Rotterdam. You know, people are barely started, the next thing they're stopping to go to the toilet. I don't want that, but I want to go hydrated. So it starts for me about a week out. I try and cut down or eliminate totally alcohol. I'm very careful to fly. I don't want to fly the day before. Flying will dehydrate you. So again, I'll try and hydrate myself when I'm on the flight. But ideally, I'll try and fly a day or two beforehand if the marathon is far away. If it's continental Europe or somewhere nearby, not so critical. But I'm trying to do that at least a week out. The British Journal of General Practice says, drinking according to perception of thirst appears safe. Specific advice on hourly volume intake is ill-advised, but would typically be between 400 and 800 millilitres per hour. Now, 400 millilitres per hour for me is going to turn out to, well, for anybody, is going to turn out to 1.6 litres, nowhere near the 4 litres that, or up to 4 litres that I might lose. So I can't take on as much water as I might lose. And again, every marathon I've done this, but I typically drink when I'm running, when I'm thirsty. I do try to anticipate a little bit, but I've never reached the finish line of a marathon thirsty. Now, I've always been lucky in that the weather has been fairly low temperatures, which suits marathon runners. I stop at every drink station, or I try to. Occasionally I miss one. I certainly missed the first one in Rotterdam. But what happens is that you ring along, and the one thing I do, I don't carry water with me. I do drink the water that's given, or electrolytes, and I balance the two. But one of the things that I do is, it comes in these, let's say it comes in a paper cup. The first thing I do is I spill half it. Otherwise, I'm sloshing it in my face as I go along. I spill half it, and I close the cup like that, and then I can drink lightly as I go through. But I watched several videos of Eliud Kipchoge and wondering what he does. Now, various articles are saying, my experience is I can't get as much fluid in as I'm going to lose. That's the first thing. And various articles say that the top elite runners all arrive at the finish line dehydrated, and it kind of stands to reason. When I'm looking at Eliud Kipchoge, and I know he's burning through more fluid than I am on the basis of the speed, because the faster I go, the more I do, and he's going twice as fast. But then he's only out there half as long. So there's all this kind of thing. But I watched to try and see how much fluid Eliud Kipchoge takes on during the race. Now he uses Morton. Now this is 500 milliliters of Morton as their sort of bottle. And I watched this video with Bottle Claus, and I'll put a link in the description. But Eliud Kipchoge is, now Morton's advice is that they're saying that everybody stops every 5, elite marathoners stop every 5 kilometers, and that they consume about 150 milliliters a go. Now, anytime, I watch a lot of marathon races to try and see this, and Bottle Claus is this man who cycles along and hands Kipchoge his drink. And Kipchoge has, his wood is less than this. It looks like it's about half. It's about the same height, because he's got to grab it. And so he's got to grab essentially something thinner, like this is a bottle of Vitted. So grab some of that. And so he goes along and he grabs this off Bottle Claus. And Bottle Claus says that he did 13 stops in the Berlin Marathon in 2021 when he broke the world record, which would equate to every couple of miles. If he's done 26 miles, 13 stops, about every 2 miles. So less than the 5 kilometers, which is about 3 miles, which is what Morton are saying. But I watch, and he's only sipping every now and then he throws away the bottle. He doesn't, there's no way he's drinking the whole 150 milliliters, if that's what it is, or 250 milliliters. Let's say even if he was drinking 150 milliliters and he does 13 goes, again, he's not drinking 4 liters of fluid, he's drinking very little. So it is possible to run the race, be dehydrated, not to a dangerous point, but to be dehydrated and finish, rather than the opposite, where someone is going very slowly, they're worried about the heat, they're over concentrating, and they're taking on too much fluid. I, for instance, always will operate my thirst meter. I mean, I trust that an awful lot and try and balance based on that. And so far, I haven't reached the end of the marathon where I'm dehydrated. Other than that, I reached the end of the marathon and will drink water normally. I'll weigh myself at the end of a marathon, and you'll soon see that the weight comes back on within 24 hours, 48 hours. I like capturing and analyzing data. I like using watches and all sorts of health gadgets to kind of analyze data. But your own inbuilt senses are amazing, and particularly when it comes to hydration, you can use your eyes to look at the color of your urine. If it's this kind of yellow color, you're probably dehydrated, and anything more than that, if it's working towards red. Now, it could be that you ate something. A friend of mine ate a lot of beetroots one day, ended up in the hospital because his urine was red. Took a while for the 2 and 2 to get added. So it could be that, but certainly if it's on the darker side of yellow and it's sustained, maybe you should see a physician. But other than that, you just might be dehydrated over a short period of time. Well, I've certainly had nights I had too much alcohol, and that's exactly what happens. I've also had where I've drunk too much, and you can end up where you, if it's clear to the point of being like tap water, then you're probably overhydrated. So the color I'm trying to get to at the start of the marathon is this, a slight hint of yellowness. I find if I get that right, I'm good to go. Well, running. I hope you enjoyed the video and found it useful. If you did, it would be great if you hit the like button. As always, there'll be lots of stuff in the description below, and I'll happily answer any question you put into the comments. There'll be a big blue subscribe button popping up there, and some raid videos there. Thanks for watching. Until the next video, just keep running along.